Gentlemen, welcome back to another installment of the Fool's Interpretation of the Havamal. I am your host, Robert the Fool, and this is the Pacific Northwest. Tonight we will be reading stanzas 78, 79, 80, and 81. So let's get into it. I saw big herds of cattle owned by a rich man's sons. Now they carry a beggar's staff. Wealth is like the twinkling of an eye. No friend could be more faithless. Now, most people don't have their wealth in herds of cattle anymore. So I'm going to talk about, well, right now, I've moved onto a small farm a few years ago, and last summer I bought a red heifer. My wife and I bought two red Dexters, a heifer and a bull, and we're going to breed them. And so I took some money. We took some money that we earned, and instead of just keeping it in a bank account or a regular savings account for a rainy day, we invested it in these cattle so that they can breed, and then their offspring we can sell and grow, grow a herd at first, and then, and sell them and keep breeding and continue to sell them and make money. And that is not what this rich man's sons did. Okay. What a lot of people do is like around where I live, they don't have a bull. They just have a whole bunch of heifers, and they will rent a bull from another farm that is more about breeding. And because people will they don't breed they don't really, they'll have a heifer, and then they'll breed that heifer over and over again, and then they'll keep the females and they'll slaughter the males, uh, and that is not what this rich man's sons did. Okay. This rich man's sons, they inherited a herd of cattle from their father, and if they had a bull or like a young one, they never raised it to breeding age so that they could continue to grow their herd and reinvest their wealth. They must have just slaughtered the bull, or if they didn't have one, they never rented a bull from one of their neighbors to impregnate all of their heifers so they could continue to grow their herd and grow their wealth and make their wealth that their father made into generational wealth that they could then pass down to their children. And so since they didn't treat their herd well, like their wealth, since they didn't treat their wealth well, it found somebody else. It left. So 99% of you that are listening to this aren't growing a herd of cattle. I work a regular job. I've talked about this a whole bunch of times. I make $33 and some change. We all have these regular jobs. So you got to treat your wealth well. What does that mean? That means you can't just keep your money in a regular bank account that doesn't. Okay. Disclaimer. This is not financial advice, and don't do anything that I say because I'm just a fool. I'm just a fool. This is not any kind of financial advice. Do not do what I tell you. But you can't keep your money in any kind of account that does not have a higher growth rate than inflation. If your money is not beating inflation, it is leaving you, like what this stanza is saying. It's because you're like, just like a friend that you're not treating well. He's like, why am I going to hang around your house? You treat me like crap every time I come over. And I mean, yeah, you don't, when I come over to hang out, like, you're not investing in your friend. Like, are you offering your friend food? Are you offering your friend entertainment? Are you offering your friend help for something? If he's got to like move, or, he needs an extra set of hands because he's like trying to work on his vehicle or something, or, doing some kind of yard work, we all need an extra set of hands. But if you're not investing in that friendship by treating your friend well, then he will go find somebody else that will treat him well. And it's the same thing with women. Though the woman in your life, if you're not treating her well, then she's going to find a man that will treat her well. And this isn't like a happy wife makes a happy life. No, that is like that. That is like cucklord shit. No. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is you need to manage, because if you did that with your money, you'd be like paying. I need to make sure that I keep my wealth. So I need to go pay a financial advisor to help me figure out how to grow my money. Well, yeah, okay, you just gave that dude money. Or or you might invest it in something stupid, and then the investment falls apart and you lose that money. Because you were foolish with it. You didn't treat it well. You invested in a meme coin or something like that. Like, invest in something that is a sure plan. And again, I'm not giving you financial advice. I am just a fool. But that's how I think of that stanza. Stanza 79. If an unwise man chances upon money or a woman's love, he will grow more arrogant, but not more intelligent. He will be deceived about his own worth. When I read this stanza, what it makes me think about is it reminds me of when I was younger, like in my early 20s, and we'd get our paychecks, and then we called it being ghetto rich, because you live in this crappy little apartment, or you rent a place with a bunch of other dudes, so the cost of your rent is low. You don't have no children, or maybe you do, and you're like not even together with this chick. So so you don't have all of these financial obligations, and and then you go spend that money. You go party on Friday night and go out to the bar and the strip club, and you just blow like 150. Or I'm like, I'd watch people spend $300 on a Friday night after we get our checks. And I mean, I'd be hanging out too, but I wouldn't be wasting that much money. And not saying I wasn't a fool in my younger days. I'm still a fool, and I was extremely stupid with my money as a young man in my 20s. It wasn't until I was about 27 to like 32 I really started thinking about how I need to treat my money, so that I'm not foolish with it. And so then I started dumping, like I now for like for the last handful of years, ever since I was like 33, I started saving 26% of my money. Started taking advantage of my company matching me up to a certain percent for my 401k options, so so I put I put more than they'll match me into it. And so the like I'm every time I and because like I get a quarterly bonus too. Like I work at a metal fab shop, and it's a big metal fab shop. There's multiple locations all over the country, and so we get a quarterly bonus. And so and that is, I look at that as me chancing upon money, because it's always different, right? And everybody I work with, I mean, not everybody, but most of the guys I work with, they take this chance of money that they get, and they blow it on, they call it like it's their fun money, or they just use it as their, like it's a part of their regular income, and so they just spend it like regular money. I think that is stupid. It is. It's part of how I consider it a chance of money. It's like a luck thing. Like I'm not the way I look at it is I'm not expecting to get it. Number one, because it's always different, and sometimes we've got extremely low bonuses. So I never factor it in to my expenses. So when I chance upon it, I'm not frivolous with it. I invest all of it into my retirement, and then I get the company that I work for to match me. I mean, they match when you invested in your retirement, they match up to a certain amount, up to a certain percentage. And so that's how you can be wise with your money. Like the on money that you chance upon. So like if you were to inherit something, don't go spend it on some stupid, like, I don't know. I don't need to come up with an example, but if you chance upon money, whether it's from work or the lottery or an inheritance somehow or whatever, don't just go spend it. You need to reinvest it into however you are building your retirement. And again, this isn't financial advice. And it's the same thing with a woman's love. Like, you see these guys, my entire adult life, well, and even in high school, you see guys get into a relationship with a woman, and 9 times out of 10, the chick is always out of a dude's league. Very rarely do I ever see men with a woman and they're out of her league. Like, I don't know what, I could probably spend another, making some other video about that topic, but like in my eyes, 9 times out of 10, like, and okay, and because I'm talking about like physical appearance. I'm not talking about I'm not talking about your success in life as a man with, the assets you are attaining. I'm talking about physical appearance. Most of the time, in my eyes, the relationships I see, like the people I work with and whatnot outside of work, I'm always amazed at how much better looking I think the woman is than the man. And then and and then I see these dudes do things that they would never do in front of their woman, their wife or their girlfriend, and that's like the arrogant part. It's like they think, because now that they're in this relationship with an attractive woman, and all their friends are like, oh yeah, man, she's hot as shit, like, oh, you know, banging, you know, then uh, they then I mean they essentially like cheat by going out and doing other things with other women, and like, and th- like they think, I mean, because if you're because like as a dude, if you're able to convince a woman to be with you, it does put a certain amount of bravado in you. And then like men, like we when I was in the military, and I see this at work sometimes too, but at work, if you do a whole bunch of this kinds of trash talking to each other, you're just going to get yourself fired. So in the military, you see a lot more of this, or back in high school when everybody was a teenager, or in college or whatever, like, or just outside of work. Like, we like compare each other's wives and girlfriends, and th- those of us that have better looking wives are full of arrogance and bravado, and we just trash talk our buddies in about the appearance of their women, and then that that's the false worth that Odin is talking about right here. Like, it's not going to make you, it doesn't make them, like, instead of taking the fact that they've got this money and this woman, and then like using the money to invest in a house or something, or like if you already have a house, and invest in something for the house that is going to make that woman's life better. uh that's the more intelligent thing. um I feel like I'm kind of being a fool right now, pattering, going in a bit of a circles, like, I mean, I'm just a fool. I mean, I have been in the same relationship since 2008, uh and we got married in 2018. But so, in the like the way, okay, when I first got with my girlfriend, I had to move. I had recently moved back into, like, back home, because like I was living at my buddy's house, and then a whole big thing happened, uh, and he had to move out, so I had to move out, and then I had to go live back home for a few months and whatnot. I actually stayed at home for like 9 months until I went to Iraq. And then, so when I got this girlfriend, though, I the company I worked for got like liquidated or whatever. So I didn't have a job and I didn't have my own place. But I got this really attractive woman that I felt like was really attractive and out of my league. And so I was like, how am I going to be intelligent? I was like, I got to keep this woman. I want to keep this woman. I want to be with this woman forever. How can I be intelligent about this and not be deceived by my own worth, right? So when I got back from Iraq, I was like, gotta get an apartment. Got an apartment. Started going to school. Blah blah. I was like trying to figure out how can I get, how can I make this better so that I keep this woman. And over the years, went from an apartment to a townhouse to renting a house to then um my my mom and my dad had gotten divorced way back when I was like 19. And my mom had been living in the house that I grew up in, but then she moved out of that house um with her new husband, my stepfather, and they had been together since like 2008. Also, they met shortly after I met my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife. And so then when she moved into when she moved in with him, then I was like, let me rent that house. Let Krista and I rent the house from you. And so then we started renting the house that I grew up in. And then a few years later, I was like, you should let me buy this house from you. And so then I bought the house I grew up in from my mom, and now I own it. And then a few years later, my mom and her husband, they bought this big chunk of farmland. I mean, it's not that big. It's only 30 acres. And then when they were purchasing that, there was this old lady who wanted to move back to her home state, and she's like, my kids aren't here. My husband has passed away. I want to go back home with my extended family. So, so then my mom and her husband bought the adjacent property, and it's just 5 acres. And then after when I heard about that, I was like, yo, you should let me rent that property from you. And then I rent the house that I grew up in that I own. I rent that to my sister-in-law. And so over the years, I've gone from once I got this woman, trying to be intelligent about from it, and trying to be intelligent about it. I went from not having any place of my own to having an apartment to having a townhouse to renting a house to renting that was small to renting the house that I grew up in that was slightly bigger to then owning that house. And that was when we first bought the house. uh that was, I felt extremely prideful about that. And then being able to have conversations at work and talk about my mortgage or whatever, or and the 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 interest rate that I got and everything. uh that was, I didn't understand how good it felt to own a home until owning one. And being in our generation, I'm about to turn 39 in February. We never saw the value in owning anything because we never thought we would be able to own anything. And to be honest, the only reason I was able to buy the house that I grew up in excuse me, is because I was in the military, so I had a VA home loan. I didn't have to put any money down. None of the only people I know, like personally know, that own a house are people that joined the military. I don't know how anybody my age that didn't join the military, that came from the kind of financial um, caste or whatever you want to call it, the low middle class. Like, how many of like, what do you mean middle class? There's high middle class, low middle class, and then there's a poor and extremely poor, and there's poverty and blah blah blah. Like, bro, yeah, we're not all in this middle. I don't know what do you mean by middle class, bro. Like, my parents didn't have enough money to invest. Like, I have three siblings. I got three brothers. They talk, oh, go put all four of us through college. Yeah, right. Not that you need to go to college for everything, but it's like I wanted to be an engineer. So it's like the only way I'm going to be an engineer is if I join the army. And so I was a combat engineer. And then, yeah, it's like the only way I'm going to go to school if I want to go to school is to join the army. So yeah, so so that's that, I mean, that's what you got to do. Like, don't, like, if you get a girlfriend when you're young and in your 20s, don't think you won yet. You didn't win. All you did was you won a small battle in life of like okay, here, let's get religious about it for a second and talk about like Odin conquering Jord, uh, Thor's mother. So like because she's the wild, untamed yard. It's where we get our word yard from. And so to create Thor, he has to conquer Yard, and after conquering her, then which is untamed land, then he can cultivate that, by sleeping with her, having sex with her, and creating, and then she can give birth to Thor. So like he didn't win yet just by conquering Yard. He then had to cultivate it. And so that's what I'm talking about. If you get a girlfriend, you didn't win yet. You started the relationship. And so now you've got to cultivate it. You got to be wise in your relationship. Let's move on to the next one. 80. What you ask of the runes will prove true. They are of divine origin, made by the mighty gods and painted by Odin. You'll learn best with your mouth shut. So what this means is people think that you're gonna like cast a spell by throwing some runes on the ground, or like you're going to throw a lot of runes on the ground and then ask the gods to do something you want, and they're going to do it. That's not exactly what's going to happen, because there's other stanzas that talk about how when you pray, be careful what you pray for, because it all has to be paid for. So what this is talking about is, see, like, none of us even know how to properly read the runes the way Odin does. Yes, we can, we know how to literally read the runes, and by literally I mean like how there are copies of sagas and the poetic Edda and stuff that are written in Younger Futhark, and there's all these standing rune stones, and we can read what the runes say. That's not what this is talking about. This is talking about like the mystic side of the runes. And so what it's saying is, like, if you ask a question and then you throw the runes on the ground, you're not going to be able to read them the way Odin does. You're not going to be able to read and prophesize the mystic reading of these runes. You're just going to see the letters. That's all you're going to see. All right. And somebody's going to try and tell me, oh, no, I can. Oh, I'm a sage. I'm a mystic. I'm a seeress, a soothsayer. I'm like, bro, no, you're not. You're just not. All right. I do believe in like divine, like what this is talking about, like the whole divine magic of the stuff, but you're not going to do it. Okay. And then when you play around with that because you don't know how to do it correctly, some goblin is going to come fuck your shit up. You're going to invite some evil Jotun to come inhabit your house because you threw a lot down that you don't know how to read correctly, and you're going to say some dumb stuff that's going to invite like a spirit or whatever, some mythic creature into your house, and then you're going to curse yourself because and then the whole, like, you'll learn best with your mouth shut. Like, these idiots like, it's talking about these idiots that think they know how to read the runes, like in a mystic, like magical way. Like, no, you don't. So like the whole learning best with your mouth shut, if you are going to cast a lot of runes down and then try to try to figure out what's going to happen in the future, just write down and keep track of what what lot was thrown down, and then whatever it is you're thinking about, don't say shit while you're doing this. Don't ask nothing, don't say nothing. But be thinking about whatever you're contemplating, and you cast them down, and then you write down which ones fell and in what order, and then just shut up and pay attention to what happens in your life in the as the future comes, you know. Uh, so like that's because you are not going to you're not going to you're not going to cast them down, and then whatever comes out of your mouth about what you think about those runes that you just cast onto the ground, and you're trying to uh, be some divine oracle, you're going to fuck it all up. That's what that means. Like none of you are these mystics. That's how I read this. 81. Don't praise the day until it's night. Don't praise your wife until she's burned. Don't praise the sword till after the fight, nor your daughter till she's married. Don't praise the ice until it's crossed, nor the ale until it's drunk. And all this is this is really simple. Don't count your eggs before they hatch. That's all this is saying. And then when you get home from work, like, okay, here, let's just do an example for each one of these lines in the stanza of 81. Don't praise the day until it's night. So when you get home from work and your wife says, hey, how was your day? Or your girlfriend or whatever. Or, say you don't gotta say you live with your buddy. I had different apartments like before I met my girlfriend, who's now my wife. Um, I had two separate roommates before. And so you'd be like, hey, bro, how was your day? And you go, oh, the day was good. The day's not bad. Or you'd say, the day was shitty. Well, you're either praising the day or you're denouncing the day by what you say after you get home from work. But the day isn't over yet. Say you had a good day at work and then you go to hang out with your buddies and everything, and then you get into a fight at the bar and you get your ass kicked. Or maybe you win the fight, but you have to go spend the night in the drunk tank because you beat the shit out of a bunch of dudes with your buddies. Or maybe you had a crappy day at work and then you go out with your buddies and you meet a girl, that night. So don't praise the day, don't denounce the day either until it's night. Don't praise your wife until she's burned. I think it says burned because we all like the idea of being burned on a pyre and immediately transcending to go spend the rest of eternity with our gods and our ancestors and the elves and the Disa and everything. And so, but you'll be like, well, what? I got a great wife. I love my wife. And I'm like, yes, you should love your wife. And I'm sure your wife is great. But if you're my age, we've all got like another 50 years of life. And a lot can happen in 50 years. And how many of you are my age that grew up in a nice, like, not talking about finances or anything, just talking about the relationship of your parents. You grew up in a nice, stable house, or maybe it wasn't, but either way, you grew up you had parents that were together and then they split up. Mine split up, while I was in middle school and like the first 3 years of high school. my house was considered the stable house by all of my friends, and they would come run to my house when they were having problems with their parents. And some of my friends had horrible parents that were like extremely abusive because of their alcohol and drug addictions. And and my my parents would always be like, "Why are these your friends?" I'm like, "I don't know, Mom. These are just the kids that will hang out with me. I can't help who will spend time with me. Like I spend time with the teenagers that like me. I'm not like I don't want to hang out with I'm not going to try to hang out with the the nice kids as you call them. Really they're all fake, two-faced. They're just rich. That's all they were. She just wanted me to hang out with the rich kids. That wasn't going to happen. Okay. Don't praise the sword until after the fight. Yeah, okay. There's obviously because your sword could break, right? So like how it's just like how many of you have had a favorite tool and then you're always talking about how much you love that tool and then and then like while you're using it right after you just got done giving it a bunch of praise, the damn thing breaks on you. And you're like, "Oh my God." You're like, and then it's like you've been using that one for so long because it's like your favorite and you praise it all the time. I got like this shovel. I've got an all steel shovel because I kept breaking these wooden handled shovels. And so then, like, after going through like three or four of them, my wife bought me this all steel, extremely heavy like I don't think most people like it because of how heavy it is, but I love it. And like even right now, I'm giving it praise, but I'm gonna have to use it again and again and again, and hopefully it never breaks. But that's what this is talking about. So like you know you're going to use that same sword repeatedly. I'm going to use this shovel. I've had the shovel for years, and I'm sure I'm going to have it for a whole nother set of 10 years, probably even more. And but each time I go to grab it, each time I go and grab it to use it, that's not when I give that shovel praise. After I'm done using it that day and I'm spraying all the mud off of it and stuff like that, and I'm about to put it back in the tool tent that I have, that's when you give that tool praise. This shovel did its good duty today. The damn good shovel. Put you back where you belong. Nor your daughter until she's married. You know, because there's like those stanzas about how you shouldn't put like all of your don't put all of your expectants of like, okay, well, I kind of like messed up my life, but as long as I raise my children good, then they will be successful, and then that will negate my failures. Okay, you can't think like that because, like the Havamal says, children are ruled by whim, and so you can do I've seen the best, I've seen the worst people come from the best households. And so it's nothing. And granted, when you don't live with someone, you don't see the nitty gritty of their lives, like of the people. So like, because like when it's just like moving in with a friend or a girlfriend. Once you actually live with someone, then you get to see all their worst sides. So when I say I've seen the worst people come from the best households, yeah, maybe they were abused in some horrible way. I have no idea. But just looking at it from face value, like you 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 can't like children grow up to be their own adults. So even if you can't look at your daughter who's a child And you know, this stanza is treating your daughter getting married as a form of success. I mean, because like back then you didn't want your daughter to never not get married, then she'd just be stuck with you forever, and then she'd be spinning twine or something. I mean, she'd probably be doing. I mean, she'd be doing that with her husband anyway, making thread. You know, doing all of that. Because I was going to say you don't want your daughter to become a spinster, but that's like the medieval job of like you know like of medieval Europe with unmarried women. What did you go do? You went and got a job at a factory and you were spinning thread, you know, or you were working a loom. But back when this was written, you know, that was just every wife's job. Every wife was, and I'm talking about normal. I'm not talking about royalty. I'm talking about normal people. Because, like I've said before, who is the Havamal talking to? Even though they say Thor was the god of the common people and the farmer. Like, okay, he was also like a bunch of sailors venerated him and everything. The Vikings. But get out of the Viking age, okay? This is like there's like 7,000 years of this religion, probably longer or whatever. It's more than just the Viking age. And Odin wasn't just the god of the nobles and the jarls and the kings. No, no, no. The entire Havamal is talking to the regular man. He's talking to the the regular guy that's working his own field. That's got to make his own money. That ain't got nobody to do his work for him. That's who the Havamal is talking to. So Odin is obviously a god of the common folk too. He's not just a god of the kings. And so in today's world, you know, don't don't praise your daughter until she's married. I look at this like just don't praise your children until they're grown up and you see how successful they are in life. You know, did your kid turn into a drug addict and is he or she in downtown Portland getting high on fentanyl? Or is your kid an upstanding member of society and, you know, in a marriage, having their own kids and being propagating, you know, and continuing just to do what we were made to do, what we are meant to be here to do. What we're here for is to cultivate, is to conquer land and cultivate it, build a house, and then a family and raise children. That's literally why we're here. If you've ever walked into an untamed forest or any other, I say forest because of the lateral that I live in. So when I go into the wild, I'm in the Pacific Northwest. I call it the Pacific Northwest just because I mean it just means north. But when you go into a wild forest, you can't hardly walk through it. You need a machete, you need a big knife, and you need tools to get through the brush. So that's part of why we're here, to maintain that. And then once you maintain it and you make a clearing, you use the trees and stuff you chopped down to build a house. And then in that house, then you build a family. Nor the ale until it's drunk. I think that reminds me of like, you know, back then, everybody, when this was like written, people were like making their own ale. So I imagine, you know, some people sucked at it, and some people were really good at it. Just like when you buy crappy beer from the store and good beer from the store. Some beer tastes good, some beer doesn't. Some beer is really low in alcohol percentage, and sometimes that's what you want. And sometimes beer is really high in alcohol percentage, and that's what you want. And so it's saying, don't just see the beer and it could be looking nice and goldy frothy or nice and dark and rich. And you say that, you're about to praise this nice glass of beer, and then you drink it and it's horrible and it doesn't get you drunk, and then you're like, that was a waste of a toast because we just drank some crappy ale. But yeah, it's dang. Haven't made one of these for a while. Been raising that baby that we had a while ago. But yeah, I've been talking for about 45 minutes now, and it's getting pretty late. It's almost 11 o'clock. So I think I'm going to call it quits for the night, and I will speak to you guys later. Peace out.